Unauthorized tow. She doesn't live here anymore, the driver barked. Don't scratch it, my cousin smirked. It'll accidentally lower her payout. I squeezed the note in my pocket. Don't park in your driveway tonight at ES. 1 a.m., I finally saw why, and trust me, they were just getting started. I'm Elena Brooks. I'm 27. I work nights as a cafe shift lead and pick up weekend shifts at a storage facility. I'm the quiet one in a loud family. I'm the ride home after parties. I'm the one who cleans the fridge after holidays. I keep the group chat calendar up to date. I show up early with napkins and plastic forks because someone always forgets. I wasn't rich. I wasn't glamorous. I didn't have a new car or a travel credit card. But I had something they didn't expect. Patience, receipts, a spine I kept, tucked away until I needed it. The house isn't big. It's a little place with a front porch and a stubborn screen door that snaps your ankle if you don't watch it. It was my mom's. After she passed, she left it to me. We painted the porch together one summer. The color's faded now, but it's still ours. When Mom died, something shifted. I felt it like a chair scraping the floor. Our family dinners changed. Conversations narrowed. I started getting left out of photos. Comments got sharper. You okay with all that responsibility? You know taxes are serious. Maybe it's better if an adult handles the house. Has your family ever treated you like you were in the way? Like you weren't big enough to hold what someone gave you? If you know that feeling, subscribe if you know the pain of being underestimated. This community listens. The night it all cracked open, I was sweeping coffee grounds off my shoes, and the last customers were leaving. We close at midnight on Fridays. The bell on the door jingled, and I was alone. I wiped tables, locked the register, and grabbed my old hoodie from the hook. That's when I saw it. A folded paper poking under my apartment door back home. My name in tidy handwriting. Don't park in your driveway tonight. No signature. Lol. Handwriting looked like my neighbor's, Mrs. Patel. She writes neat block letters on her yard sale signs. I'd helped her carry folding tables last month. I stared at the note, then at my keys. I could have ignored it. I could have said, it's nothing. But it felt like a hand on my shoulder. I parked on the street 2 blocks away and walked the rest. The night was cold, and the streetlights buzzed. I kept my hood up and my steps quiet. At 1 a.m., I heard the reverse beep before I saw it. An unmarked moving truck backed down the street. No logo, just a gray box rolling toward my garage. It was slow, careful, practiced. The engine idled. I stepped behind the hedge and watched. The passenger door opened. My aunt hopped out in her fluffy slippers and a long cardigan. My uncle slid down from the driver's seat and stretched like it was a normal Saturday morning. My cousin swung out with a box on his shoulder and a new lock set wedged under his arm. He grinned. My aunt didn't look at the house. She looked at the driveway, like she'd been checking it all day. Good, she said. She isn't here. She clapped once. Let's move. I stepped out. What are you doing? They jerked in surprise. Then my aunt tipped her head and frowned like I was a rude neighbor who wandered over to complain about noise. We're staging for the realtor. Family decision. You can't just... I pointed at the door. You're not on the deed. She laughed in this sweet nightmare kind of way. You? On a deed? Grow up, Elena. You can't even afford taxes. My uncle lifted a crowbar. Lock's old. We'll replace it. You try that, and I call the police, I said. My voice shook. I hate that it did. My cousin leaned against the truck. Relax. It's done. Paperwork's filed. He waved a folder. You signed you were leaving. It's not personal. I took a step forward. I didn't sign anything. A spotlight washed over us. A tow truck rumbled to a stop, chains rattling. The driver hopped out and shouted, Owner authorized tow. She doesn't live here anymore. He'd been told my car was abandoned. On their property. My car wasn't even in the driveway, and they knew it. My cousin turned to the driver and said, loud enough for the block. Don't scratch it. It'll accidentally lower her payout. Porch lights flicked on up and down the street. Curtains shifted. I heard a dog bark. The humiliation hit like a slap. Fast and hot. I looked at my aunt. You can't do this. Mom left this house. To me. We found an earlier will, she said. A lost will, It changes things. She held up papers stamped by a notary I'd never heard of. The stamp looked off. Maybe the ink was wrong, or maybe it was the way she held it, like a magic trick. We told the realtor you agreed to vacate. Don't make a scene. My hands were still in my hoodie pocket, gripping that little note. The one that said, "Don't park." I swallowed. This is my scene. Behind them, the truck door slid up. Inside were boxes, a fold-out table, and those fake plants they put in photos to make houses look like no one lives there. They came to change the locks and fake my absence. They planned to walk me out of my own life before sunrise. "Please, step aside," the tow driver said. "No," I said. My aunt leaned close and dropped her voice. "You can't fight us, Elena." I looked at her cardigan sweeping the driveway. I looked at the lock set under my cousin's arm. I looked at the papers in my aunt's hand. Then I stepped back, not to obey, but to watch. To see it all. To memorize it. Because something in my chest clicked into place like a key turning. If they wanted to write a story, I would write the ending. The next morning, a group photo landed in our family chat. They were at Angelo's Pizza, our usual spot. My aunt, uncle, and cousin sat at the big table near the window with 3 pies and pitchers of soda, a caption. Family dinner to discuss the house. Smiling faces, cute angle. My name not tagged. I typed, "What time?" Then I watched the dots bounce, then disappear. A new message popped up, and I caught it before it vanished. Too awkward, if Elena shows. The little edited tag blinked on a different sentence. I screenshotted the unsent one. My stomach dropped into this cool, slow place where I could think. I walked into Angelo's anyway. The bell chimed. The smell of burnt cheese and oregano wrapped around me. I waved. "Hey." My aunt's smile had 90 teeth. "Oh, you made it." The server glanced between us. "They said not to set an extra place," she whispered to me. I stood there for a second, longer than polite. Then I turned and left. In the reflection of the door, I saw my cousin hold up his phone and snap, me like I was part of the joke. 2 days later, I needed a new lock after the midnight circus, so I went to the hardware store. I stood in the aisle of deadbolts, reading the backs of packages like they were novels, and they found me. "Elena," my uncle boomed from the end of the aisle. "She's still clinging to junk. We're rescuing the property." A man nearby looked me up and down, then at the cheapest lock set in my hand. He said, like he just solved a math problem with me as the wrong answer. My cousin laughed. "Maybe she'll finally move if the water gets shut off." I set the lock in my basket and walked. Fast. Past hoses, paint chips, bags of soil that smelled like rain. My face burned. My ears rang. Their voices bounced off shelves like balls in a concrete court. I felt small and heavy at the same time. Went home and made a file. Nothing fancy. $10 at the supermarket for a plastic folder. Sharpie on the tab. House. Proof. Inside it, I slid the screenshot of the chat. Photos of the tow truck. The note about the driveway. I opened my laptop and Googled county recorder, deed copy, notary verification. I called the office. A tired woman said, "Send the parcel number." I learned how to find it. I wrote it on a sticky note and pressed it to the wall. Then they knocked with a clipboard. "We arranged a junk hauler," my aunt said. "We're being generous." 3 men stood on my porch. The clipboard had a page on top that said, "Consent to remove personal property." Fine print wove like ants at the bottom. "Just a formality," my aunt sang. Her pen tapped my fingers. I pulled the clipboard to my chest and read the fine print. It was a quitclaim deed tucked under the consent. Not a full deed, just enough to shift the story. I handed it back. "No." She sighed like I'd dropped a glass. "You can make this. Simple or hard?" "Hard," I said, and I shut the door. I didn't scream. I didn't throw anything. I didn't even cry. I took photos of the clipboard edges, the logo on the hauler's shirts, the time on my stove clock and my phone. I wrote it all down. Texts, voicemails, dates, names. I wasn't fast. I was careful. Night after night, I worked the cafe and took breaks under the humming light in the back. I watched foam settle on espresso and read about quiet title actions on my phone. I learned lis pendens means lawsuit pending and clouds the title so no one touches it without a headache. I learned about fraudulent conveyance. I wasn't a lawyer, but I could read. I could ask questions. The neighbors started looking at me different. Half pity, half curiosity. The day after the clipboard, Mrs. Patel caught me getting my mail. "Beta," she said softly. "You okay?" "Not really," I said. She looked past me at the driveway. "Come by later," she said, "for chai, that night." I sat in her warm kitchen, cinnamon and cardamom floating in the air. She set 2 mugs on the table and tapped the little doorbell camera app on her phone. The video scrolled. "They came at 1, she said, "and before. Look. License plates, timestamps, my cousin carrying a lockbox and a little bag of fake lemons." I covered my mouth with my hand, then laughed. It came out shaky and small. "Fake lemons," I said. She nodded. "I saved it for you. What they didn't know was I had proof I wasn't ready to wave around yet. What they didn't know was my neighbor had a camera that didn't sleep. What they didn't know was I'd scanned the signed copy of Mom's will weeks earlier when I was cleaning out her binder, and I'd emailed it to myself and to a friend so it was always there. What they didn't know was I had a voice note my aunt forgot she sent. "If she parks there, we'll just have it towed as abandoned. Same difference." What they didn't know was I was patient in a way they weren't. They rushed. I watched. I didn't swing first. I let them walk forward. I let them talk. I let them show who they were while I stitched my net together thread by thread. A regular at the cafe, a woman with a messy bun and a tote bag full of sticky notes, leaned on the counter during my break and said, "You look tired." I snorted. "Family stuff." She tilted her head. "What kind?" "The kind where they try to evict you from your life." She set her coffee down. "I'm Natalie. I'm a legal aid paralegal. Bring me everything." I laughed again because it felt too convenient. "You serious?" She shrugged. "I like a good file." I brought her my folder. She spread it out on the back table where we roll silverware and napkins. She stuck pink flags on things and wrote, "Ask clerk, certify, timeline," in block letters. "This notary stamp," she said, tapping the lost will. My aunt flashed at me. "Let's pull the registry." We searched the county's notary list. The name on their stamp had moved 2 states away 2 years ago. The commission expired months before the date on their paper. Natalie raised her eyebrows. "Cute." She drafted a simple injunction template. Nothing dramatic. Just words on a page that say, "Stop doing illegal things in legal." She showed me how to file a notice to the realtor about a clouded title. "They won't like it," she warned. "But they will understand it." I walked home with a file thicker than it was that morning. On the curb, I heard my aunt on the phone. "Don't worry," she was saying. "She'll fold. We'll swap the locks Friday." I stopped walking. My key bit my palm. She saw me and didn't stop. She smiled and talked louder. "Friday? Early." I printed her words from the phone records later. I printed the realtor's email after that. He wrote, "If we get early access, we can stage this weekend." He thought he was clever. He thought he was safe. Mrs. Patel met me by our mailboxes with a little thumb drive in a plastic bag. "Keep it safe," she said. "They shouldn't do this to you." The thumb drive sat in the file like a tiny sword. Then they sent the calendar invite. "Estate sale prep, Friday 6 a.m. I wasn't on it. The title made my throat close. My house, my mother's pictures, my name not invited. I circled the day on my wall calendar and read. Thursday night, I slept in my clothes on the couch with my file on my chest and my phone plugged in at 100%. I brewed coffee at 4 a.m. The house was dark and quiet. The air had that heavy pre-dawn weight like a held breath. At 5:58, the front gate squeaked. At 6:01, the key rattled in the lock. The door opened. They walked in like they owned the air. My aunt. My uncle with a tape measure dangling from his belt. My cousin with a box of those fake lemons. The realtor in a crisp shirt holding a clipboard, and a smile that cost money. I stepped from the hall into the living room. "Good morning," My aunt blinked like she'd seen a ghost. "You don't live here," she said. "Don't start." I set the folder on the coffee table. "I do." Natalie's name lit up on my phone. I hit speaker. "I'm here," she said. Calm. Warm. "Hi, everyone." The realtor frowned. "Who's this?" "My paralegal," I said, and my aunt scoffed like I'd said fairy godmother. "Stop." "With the theatrics," my uncle said. "We're measuring for staging. You're not part of the plan." I opened the folder and pulled out the will addendum. Mom's small initials in blue at the bottom. I slid it across the table. "This is the latest. Certified copy in the file. Probate acknowledgement here." I placed the certified mail receipt on top. My aunt didn't touch it. "We found an earlier document. Not valid," Natalie said through the phone. "We checked the notary registry. The notary on your paper retired in 2023. The commission expired before your date. That stamp is not active." Silence stretched across the room like a thin wire. "This is a family matter," my uncle said. "This is a legal matter," Natalie said. "And Elena lives here." I kept going. I pressed the play button on my phone. My aunt's voice filled the room, a little tinny, but clear. "If she parks there, we'll just have it towed as abandoned. Same difference." My cousin muttered something in the background. The chain clanked in my memory. The realtor's face changed. Just a flicker. But I saw it. "What is this?" "Evidence," I said. I slid the thumb drive across next. "Front door ring camera footage. 1 a.m. Your early access. Your lockbox. You walked in knowing there's a dispute." "I didn't..." He started and stopped. "If you knew title was contested and entered anyway," Natalie said, "you're on the hook. If you continue, we file an injunction this morning and a lice pendens this afternoon. Every move you make will be documented." My cousin lunged at the table like he could snatch the papers into his pocket and make them vanish. I pulled the folder back. "Don't," I said. He froze. My uncle put a hand on his shoulder like they'd rehearsed that pose. My aunt's mouth pressed into that thin line that means she's calculating. "You're ungrateful," she said, finally. "We're trying to fix your life." "I'm done being your project," I said. My voice didn't shake this time. It sounded like a door closing gently but firmly. The realtor cleared his throat. "I'm terminating the listing," he said. "Effective immediately." He backed toward the door. "Good luck." He fled with his clipboard like it was a parachute. "We'll appeal," my aunt hissed. "We'll take this to the whole family." "You already did," I said. "And you excluded me from the pizza." A sound escaped my cousin. Half laugh, half cough. My uncle looked at the tape measure, like it had hurt him. My aunt shifted her bag on her shoulder and took one last sweeping glance around the room like she could take a picture back to her friends. Then they left. No slammed door, no curse. Just the soft, stunned shuffle of people who thought they were the storm and realized they were just wind. I followed them to the porch and watched them walk to their cars. The morning was pink at the edges like a healed bruise. Mrs. Patel stood by her gate with her sweater wrapped over her nightgown. She raised her mug in a little salute. I lifted mine back. Inside, I set new locks. I filed the injunction Natalie had ready. I sent the lis pendens notice with a trembling hand I forgave. The county clerk stamped things. The world stayed ordinary, around the edges. A truck beeped somewhere far away. A child laughed. Coffee dripped. Life kept going. My house was quiet, but it didn't feel empty. Not anymore. It felt like standing in a room after a storm and hearing the drip of water into a bucket and knowing you've got time to fix the roof before the next one. Mom used to say, "Stand up without shouting." I didn't get it when I was 16, and she told me to return shoes I couldn't afford. I get it now. Standing up isn't about being the loudest person in the room. It's proof. It's patience. It's choosing yourself even when the people who should choose you don't. I swept sawdust from under the door. I picked up a lemon from the fake display my cousin never placed and squeezed it just to feel it. It was hollow. I laughed. I brewed a cheap coffee and sat on the porch we painted together. I rested my cup on the rail where Mom always did. The sun slid between the trees and lit up the peeling paint. And I didn't hate the peeling. I loved it because it was honest. I finally understood I never needed their approval. The group chat quieted. A week went by. Then one photo pinged through. Not from them, but from my cousin's girlfriend. A throwaway shot from that pizza night. In it, my aunt's face looked stretched at the edges. My uncle was mid-blink. My cousin's smile didn't reach his eyes. I saved it not for revenge, but as a reminder. Paper smiles can't hold a house. I walked to Mrs. Patel's with a plate of cookies from the day-old shelf and a little thank you note. She waved me in and busted out that same chai. "You look taller," she said. "I feel taller," I said. She laughed. "Good. Some days I still wake up at 1 a.m. when a truck idles somewhere in the neighborhood. I lie there and listen and wait. Then I breathe out. It's a habit. It'll fade. The locks are solid now. The paperwork is stronger than their suggestions. And my folder sits on the shelf, thicker than any insult. If you've ever had to prove your worth to those who doubted you, hit subscribe and tell me your story. I want to hear it, even if it's messy. Where you started, what you lost, what you kept safe in your pocket while people talked over you. Your voice matters more than their noise. Let's build a place where quiet power adds up.